Okay, so technically, everything should be streaming now. Is that right?
You want to check?
Yes, please.
No.
Can you check?
Yeah, we are live.
Yep,
Yeah, we are
we are
live.
live. What can you
Mm-hmm.
see on stream?
I saw the collage of image that we did,
Uh-huh. Anything
and
else?
it's and that's a counter on the top left. Like it
Yes.
looked like Twitch thing.
If I put a message through, should it work? Hello. Do you see the chat in the bottom left corner?
Nope.
Oh, damn. Because I did put it on stream. Okay. Well, to
Ah,
everyone who's
that's
wondering,
I can. It's very tiny though.
I'll make it bigger. I'll make it bigger.
It's very tiny. I can see the text.
Okay, I'm gonna do trial number 2. How about that? Is that better? Or is that still tiny?
Wait a second. Give it a time to load. They had to load the thing.
There
Wait
we
a
go.
second.
Is that much better? Trial 2.
You can see something?
Man, this sucks. This is so annoying. Okay, how about that one? Hello. Is that a lot better?
It's still tiny though. Very tiny.
Oh my gosh. How massive are you on this stupid box? This is actually so hard to do, mate. I'm trying to figure this out.
Take your
Um,
time. It's fine. It's fine.
yeah, well, I'm currently recording this now as well, so we are live. Now our viewers are just going to be staring at us trying to figure out how to work Twitch. Oh, the beautiful wonders of life. Anyway, so I moved it here. The transition should work. I'm going to do there. Is that better?
Wait a second.
Sweet. Um,
Oh, there you go. I can.
Finally, okay. The sizing took forever, but we're done. There you go. Nice. That's good. Is the
Oh.
chat working on the external box? It is. Beautiful. Beautiful. That's very good.
Hmm.
So, welcome everyone. Please bear with us because we are trying out a new form of application. Even though we used to use OBS back in the day anyway, we decided to use Streamlabs because apparently it's a little bit more streamer friendly. So, decided to try to figure that out, in which trying to set stuff up is really semi-annoying, but it's all in good fun. Alrighty, so I'll just mess around with the desktop audio a bit and make sure it isn't too loud. There we go. That's a little bit better. The ones on top there. La-di-da-da, la-da-da. Cool.
Cool.
Well, for anyone who is paying attention, what we are doing currently is I'm just editing one of our videos for YouTube. And I think JT is up to some. What are you up to, Justin?
I'm doing my art at the moment.
You're doing your art at the moment. That's good. Yeah. So today's stream is going to be a bit more chill. There isn't necessarily anything too much. You got anything to focus on today, JT? I remember last time we went on game theory and like mechanics against like game skill and stuff. Let's see what sort of stuff is kind of going on around today.
I don't know. I got a few good topics, but I'm not too sure if you want to hear it or not.
Oh no, we're easy to hear it. Just
Okay.
wanted to say, go on, Ed.
So, like yesterday I was thinking, right? So you know how like in like every like in Christianity, right? Or in religion. Oh, here comes the big topic. So yeah, so it when it comes to like religion and stuff like that, that's like that's like the seven deadly sins. Have you heard of
Okay.
it?
Yes,
Yeah,
I've heard of those.
yeah. So like in the concept of seven deadly sins, right? I was thinking like out of all the seven deadly sins, which one is the most like harmless, or which one is the one that is like it's a sin, but at the same time it's not that like it's not as like what's the word? As like it can cause like a massive like a uproar kind of thing.
An
For example,
uproar.
like
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
or another way of saying it is like for example, pride. Like
Mm-hmm.
for example, if you have too much pride, like you get someone killed or you like kill someone because of the pride, right?
Yeah.
Because you do not want to prove like because you don't want people to prove you wrong. But in that same case, for example, I would say like gluttony wouldn't as be as like as deadly as pride because gluttony you just pretty much eat a lot, but at the same time you're not causing anyone harm. You're just causing yourself harm.
Mm.
But like yeah, that was my opinion. It's like which like if we do a ranking system kind of thing,
Yeah.
which of the deadly sins is the most deadly and which is the one is like least deadly, like is it's not as harmful as the other, pretty much. Yeah.
Oh. That is a bit of a interesting topic.
Hmm.
Not really sure how you would put rankings on it.
Yeah.
Um, because looking at it, let's do a bit of research now. Seven deadly sins. And by the way, we are talking about the not the anime, but the actual religious counterpart of it from the
Hmm.
Bible.
Yeah.
Um, let me see. 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 Because it is hard to put a ranking
Hmm.
into all of these.
Hmm.
Some people say maybe pride might be one of the higher ones, higher order.
Hmm.
Wrath, sloth, greed. There is a bit of an intertwine between each of those, so it
Y-
isn't necessarily like individually by itself. Sometimes you get ones that are a bit more demeaning on situation, others not necessarily.
Hmm.
So you would think it depends again on situation, I guess. Because each of the sins are pretty powerful in
Yeah.
and itself,
Hmm.
and um often there is. I think the common thing about all of seven of them is that concentration,
Hmm.
in that all of them are they're all extremities. So when you get with the when you get like wrath, envy, or pride, or sloth,
Hmm.
what's common about all of them is that they're all excessive.
Yeah.
And so you look at it, they're all excess in one aspect.
Hmm.
Wrath is obviously excess in uh, anger and hatred.
Yeah.
And then, sloth is excess in laziness, not doing anything. Greed's excess in money. Gluttony is excess in food.
Hmm.
Um, Lust is excess in desire. And so all seven of them, which goes to show a bit of a nice guideline, is highlighting the troubles of having an excess of something, right?
Hmm.
And so an excess of something, I guess, is the root of all of these, you could say,
Hmm.
is too much.
Hmm.
Um, well, which doesn't, just because the sins are um, in excess rather than in lack of, doesn't mean that the opposite of those doesn't do almost the same harm.
Hmm.
It's like, think about it, right? Sometimes you'd think that, balance is always good in everything,
Yeah.
and too little of something means too much in something else.
Hmm.
So if you have, obviously, if you have a cup and you fill it up with, 3/4 cup of water, and then you fill the last little quarter bit with oil. And obviously, since, a bit of basic physics, those two won't actually combine together, and you'll see a little split in between them.
Hmm.
And you could say in that there's too much water in there, and there isn't a balance. And so obviously, you know, too much water in there could symbolize something else. But there, at the same time, you could say that there is little of oil, even though it's only like 25% of the cup. Um, and so kind of looking at both ways of understanding how much is in that cup really depends, because a lack of something means an excess of something else.
Mm,
And so sometimes there isn't necessarily too much of a difference between those two.
mm,
Sometimes you'll be lucky to catch, um, I don't know, non-consequential imbalance of things.
yeah.
But yeah, but when it comes to like ranking them, like what do you reckon, Justin, if you were to put things in a ranking order when it comes to the seven sins?
Huh. I don't know. I think like, for example, like for me, obviously gluttony would be the last, the last spot, because for me, like my idea was that like it's not saying that gluttony doesn't connect to anything, but at the same time, like okay, for example, like I think a lot of people would argue that seven deadly sins, right? Like the reason that it's seven deadly sins is because every single sin is connected with each other.
Mm-hmm.
So for example, like if you have too much pride, for example, if you have too much pride, you think you're better than anyone, then
Mm-hmm.
for example, like if you think you look good, and then you might like your idea of lust might grow because like people you think that people every single person that you met like love your company or enjoys you, people wants to hit on you and things like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
But in that situation, like I think for me, I think gluttony would be one, but at the same time, like it also really come down to concept, like the idea of speaking,
Mm-hmm.
because like I guess w- in your opinion, would you think gluttony would be hunger for money and things like that, or would it just be purely hunger for food and things like not sharing, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Like if I say gluttony as a sin, like majority of the things that it's gonna affect is gonna affect your kind of way of thinking, and the most harmful things that can happen is probably gonna be harmful to you rather than like anything else, I guess. But for lust or for pride, or for different type of those things, like it can affect someone, I guess. As it
Mm-hmm.
it's like that's where the whole idea of I think gluttony is like the bottom, like I guess, and pride would be like the top, or top of the dog, I guess. But at the same time, like as you said, like because seven tendencies, like you can't really tell the ranking or anything like that, because like for example, uh like like one self harm can be much more powerful than if you're harming someone else, right? Like for
Mm-hmm.
example, like if you think of the effect of like like for example, if you're surrounded with the people that love you, that people that that cherish you and things like that, and then you took your own life, like
Mm-hmm.
because because of that reasons, and then I think more like it can come down to the domino effect too, where people surrounding you that love you like feel that like they feel guilty because they can't save you, or they can't help you during your tough times of need, and they'll probably shift blame themselves, saying that oh, I'm not good, I'm not good enough as as a friend, as a parent, or something like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, like like you can't also say that I'm hurting someone else, it's better too, because it's gonna happen the same way as if you're hurting yourself as well, right? So like I see what you mean by like in several diseases that's not much of a ranking system, but
Mm-hmm.
y- yeah, but for me, personally, I think gluttony would be the bottom, I guess. And then
Mm-hmm.
pride would be the highest, because for my personal living, for example, I have gluttony, right? Like I eat a lot and things like that. But for me, it might be easy fix, or it might could not be. Like I can quote unquote stop eating, or I can just share, right? It's for me, sharing is a pretty simple thing, pretty simple concept, where I share my stuff, and then gluttony doesn't like it's just endless kind of usually. But
Mm.
as when it came down to pride for me, where like like as a person for me, like I'm very like proud of my work. I love my work. Like everything I do into my work, like it has some sort of like impact for myself, right? For example, if I create an artwork or I create like like a concept, like and then having people to like judge it or like like giving good criticism to the point that like for me I put all my souls into this work and people start judging it.
Mm.
Of course I'm not. Of course I'm like. Of course I'm not gonna like it by nature, right? I'm just like in my mindset, like, why are you hating on my work, right? This is my like piece of my like my effort I put in, and then without know you like for you without knowing it, you just judge it straight away, saying that this is crap, this is nothing else, right? This is like
Mm.
the same piece as everyone else, right? So I think like for me, pride is a really big concept like because having pride is a like it's a good thing, right? Like
Mm.
it's a like it's good saying that like you're proud of your work, you're proud of your things that you have now, and like like you have to take like work like you have to take like what's the word? You have to take a certain thing that this is my work, and like like and you have to like believe in yourself and like improve on your concept and then make it better, right? But
Mm.
in that sort of way, also like if I don't open my eyes to the point that like saying that like thinking other people is like they're also true, like for example like say like I'm so blindsided saying that like because my work is so great, like people say like, oh, Justin, like your work has to improve, and like like that like down in me, I said yes, like I will want to like improve, and like I want to change, but at the same time because of like my pride, like I would say that no, I don't have to change, like this is as good as it get, right? And then like I wouldn't have to improve, right? And
Mm.
don't have to learn. Yeah, I think that come down to like own personal preference. Like for me, like gluttony would be like like the lowest, or and then like pride would be the highest, I guess.
Mm.
What about you, Simon?
Well, personally, I find that all seven of them are, how do I say this? So if you look at what I said earlier on, how they're all rooted to an excess of,
Mm,
um, if they're all rooted around the excess of, each of the seven are representations of um, different representations of almost the same thing.
mm,
So because the gluttony is an excess of like eating food or drinking too much, um, so is greed an excess in pursuit for material goods. In the same way, sloth is an excess of laziness. In the same way, wrath is an excess in kind of undesirable aspects of life, you would say. And
mm,
seeing as though all of them are kind of, different, um, how do I say this? They're almost different ways of seeing almost the same thing.
yeah,
And it's not that the root of it is purely an excess of something is always innately bad,
mm,
but usually an excess in the wrong things doubles up and gets you into like the worst of their extent.
yeah,
And so in ranking,
mm-hmm,
um, there is a bit of, you can make a couple correlations between each of the individual ones, but
mm,
then that almost depends on, what context and what's happening.
yeah,
Because envy can be rooted upon almost all of the other six, right?
yeah,
If you envy for someone else's possessions, that could almost lead you to greed. It could lead you to, all the other ones, wrath even, because you could hate them so much.
mm,
And so there's a lot of correlation between all of them. And
mm,
just like you said at the start, it's really important to really understand that even though these are individual,
mm,
they connote something else because they're always saying an excess of the wrong thing results in almost the worst that can happen of that thing.
mm,
And so even then, um, despite the fact that there is an excess in all of them, you could almost interpret this as saying whichever one you feel personally is more
Mm.
ranked to you. Like,
Yeah.
someone else could have greed as their lowest or number one, or someone could have a real issue with sloth, or someone can have a real issue with wrath. And all of these really get around their concepts because there is cures to them, right?
Mm.
It isn't
Yeah.
all just they aren't all just individually standing as they are. I think on the website I'm on now, um, goes to show lust is controlled by chastity,
Mm.
gluttony is controlled by temperance, greed's controlled by charity,
Mm.
sloth can be cured by diligence, wrath by
Yeah.
patience, envy by kindness, pride by humility, right?
Mm.
And the thing is, um, these each of these seven
Mm.
all are always said to be inherently evil, right?
Yeah.
There's a reason why they're inherently evil
Mm.
because it's excessive.
Mm.
But to think about it, what is um what is wrath without its counterpart of patience, right?
Mm.
And what are they almost in the opposite way? Because okay, this is where it's going to get a bit confusing at points, right?
Mm. Yeah.
Humility is removing boastfulness and ego from being proud of what one does.
Mm.
But why would you need to do that if ego and boastfulness never existed?
Yeah.
And ego and boastfulness root from pride. And so to have humility means pride must exist, right?
Mm.
And it, this is more of a theory on the balance of things. Hear me out, right? Because this is going to get pretty crazy.
Mm.
If you think about it, there isn't a a give without a take. Neither is there a take without a give, right?
Yeah.
Um, almost everything is replaced by something equally in its position.
Mm.
In physics, you know this by forces in Newton's third postulate that
No.
every action
Mm.
force equals a reaction force, but it doesn't have to
Uh,
be a reaction. Remember,
mm.
um, because in the balance of things, it doesn't mean that for one thing to exist, another thing must also.
Mm.
It's not explicitly saying that, right? But what
Yeah.
I'm saying is that uh the existence of one end of a spectrum must suggest that the opposite of itself on the other end of the spectrum must also exist somehow,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
Um, and so if you come to think about it, not all, obviously you have, you know, the seven sins which are bad, as most
Mm.
people perceive them,
Yeah.
but what makes them really bad is just its effect, right? And the thing about being human is that obviously we do make mistakes. We're not, you know, perfect, transcendent beings.
Mm.
And when you think about it, a lot of us actually come across all seven of these at one point in our life.
Yeah.
It's almost human to feel
Mm.
in any of the seven.
Mm.
But what this is saying is you can control it by bringing in its counterpart, and that's how you
Mm.
live it balanced rather than being controlled by one or the
Yeah.
other.
Mm.
But you do have to think about it though, because a lot of people understand that too much of lust is bad, but too much of chastity or too much of temperance is never seen to be bad, right?
Mm.
Too much of charity is never seen to be bad as well. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And this is where the issue comes in, where people think an excess of good is never bad,
Mm.
which you can say holds true morally almost,
Mm.
but do understand that an excess of charity means you're neglecting something else, right?
Yeah.
Because an excess of charity is inherently good. Well,
Mm.
a lot of people think it's morally good,
Yeah.
but you disconsider what you're actually neglecting. to
Mm.
obtain an excess of charity,
Yeah.
and there is something else that you are neglecting, which makes up for being too much in charity.
Mm.
And yeah, so that's kind of one part of what I was saying, how there almost has to be a balance, but then
Yeah.
comes the gray area of too much of good never seen to be bad.
Mm.
Yeah, but there you go. That's a
Ah.
bit of an idea on it. Although
Mm.
it is a bit hard to kind of understand exactly that idea. It's
Mm.
quite the quite it's quite the challenging idea. And
Mm.
in essence, you don't want to think too hard because we're here to enjoy a lot of things. But then obviously if you do come across that sometimes, like
Mm.
those idea of extremities and balancing things, you do want
Yeah.
to consider that a lot of what people think nowadays is just based upon what everyone thinks is normal.
Yeah.
And just because it's normal may not necessarily mean it's any good or true, right? It
Mm.
just means it's familiar.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's that's kind of that idea on
Mm.
yeah,
Cool.
on those things.
Mm. Because like
Mm,
for me, right? Like like sometimes like in like church's teaching, and
mm,
because like I did youth ministry, and like different type of youth group and things like that.
yeah, of course.
Like they always said that like you have to like learn like in like one way, I guess. Like like you can't like for me, like when I learn something, I have to learn something not bad per se, but I have to make a mistake, right? I have
Of
to learn.
course, you have to,
I,
to learn something. Yeah, that makes
mm,
sense.
exactly. Like I have to go through some sort of like like some sort of bad to learn the good side, right?
Of course.
But in a lot of my like my experience with like faith and things like that, when
Hmm.
it comes down to that, always people love to say that like the only way to learn is like through the good ways, right? Or like
Mm. It's like there
through
is only one way to learn things. Hey.
exactly. And I'm just like there, and I'm just like how like n- like is that like a like if for example like people said that like you learn something in a bad way, that means like it's bad, and then you have to ask God's forgiveness for this, and then like he will forgive you and things like that, right?
Hmm.
In that sense, like is there like a actually like a normal concept in the church where it came down to the whole learning concept, where they said that like there is a way, like there is a way of like learning, which is learn through bad bad ways,
More mistakes. Yeah.
or like for example in the case of like like s- like some people, or like for me, right? Like
Hmm.
where like when I was young, I was a troublemaker, and things happens, and and then in Malaysia's like during that time, it wasn't as same as like Australia or any like Western country where like corporate punishment is not a thing, right?
Hmm.
It is a thing in Malaysia where if you do it bad things, you get punished, and that's pretty much it, right? And
Hmm.
as for my parents, like because when they grow up, they never learn the right way of teaching, or like how do you teach your like how do you like teach your son and things like that.
Hmm.
So whenever I did something wrong, I never get told why I was wrong. They just hit me, and that's pretty much it, right? So
Hmm.
in that case, for me, like I did something bad, but at the same time, like my parents did something bad too, like without telling me, and they just hit me for no reason. And then for example, like from there on, like I did learn something from it, right? Like it's not like not giving like people credit, like saying that like hit your child and then they will learn something. No, of course not. It's just that luckily I did learn like my case, right?
Hmm.
So like I learned what they did was wrong, and then my parents like hit me, which they did something wrong, but I still learned something. So in that sense, like we like uh in the sense of like should, I'm not saying like the church should, but like should they have like another like way of like I guess learning, I guess, like which is like the whole concept is just like they will make up like a whole new section or like a whole new chapter on like learning things the wrong way, I guess, or like or learning things in a sinful way. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Because like for example, like I when it came down to the whole concept where like like I heard a lot of people's like you have to teach like children the money of concept, the money of like saving and things like that.
Mm.
And then a lot of people were saying that like rich people like rich kids never understand the concept of money because they never feel they would run out of money, right? So
Mm-hmm.
they would feel sad or they would feel that money is important. But for as for poor kids where like money is very scarce, they have to save, they have to keep the money in on their hands, where they learn the concept of like how to save money, how to manage your money, like your money well, your resources well, to the point that like it's saying that as you said that not there's nothing, like you can't get something good without the bad, pretty much, right?
Mm-hmm.
So in that sense, like do you think like the like the whole church, like the church should accept the idea of like there is a way of learning. There's no two ways of learning. There's a lot of ways, and then one of the way is like learn through bad things, I guess.
Well, that idea kind of stems around if there's only one way to learn things, then you'd expect absolution,
Mm,
where absolution is only the existence of one and
yeah.
nothing more, right?
Mm,
And I guess you shouldn't stress too much that the church emphasizes only one way of learning things because
mm,
it's obviously structured, and this is the Catholic Church by me, in a way in which you can interpret your own kind of idea of how to go about things.
mm,
And even though it's emphasized on the goal,
mm,
which is the main point of a lot of things they say, there is an emphasized goal. This
mm,
doesn't necessarily mean that there isn't that they always enforce an absolute way of doing things.
mm,
Because I get what you mean that there are all sorts of different ways to learn, and that's almost unique and individual to each one of us, right?
mm,
And that there isn't always going to be a singular way of doing things, and there's always
yeah.
tons of different ways because a lot of people can just find all sorts of different ways of doing things. And
Mm,
um, the thing is, there shouldn't be a definite kind of good or bad solution.
mm,
There's strength in the different ways people can do things, but there
yeah.
isn't inherently something that makes it bad or good. And
Mm,
learning by making mistakes is obviously one way of learning.
mm,
It's not a bad way of learning.
mm,
You can, on a scale of efficiency or effectivity, you can kind of gauge whether it's the most effective or the most or like least effective way of learning things.
mm,
But in a way, it's almost by expression, whatever people say. So it
mm,
isn't because the church tells people exactly what to do, but obviously they hold an opinion or a side to things most of the time.
mm,
And when they do, they're not enforcing this to be the absolution for things, right?
mm,
It's
yeah.
only because it's common nowadays that people
Mm,
accept it for being
yeah.
the absolute good, if you would say.
Mm,
Um, and there's nothing wrong about trying to contradict, sometimes whatever views they hold, right?
mm,
And it's not like a lot of people, you can say, agree with some things the church say, agree in absolution with everything they say, and agree not in absolution of what they say, right?
mm, yeah.
And so people aren't limited to what they can believe in. It's almost by choice, and it's dependent on choice to see whether or not they actually want to pay attention to what the
Yeah.
church is saying. And when it comes to religion, um, the common thing you'll find is because a lot of it is faith based, there isn't a strict absolute way of learning things.
Mm,
And some may not be accepted as much, but that doesn't discredit the method.
yeah.
So, you've got people with all sorts of different forms of praise, and, you could say some methods are maybe more effective than others.
Mm.
or others mean a lot more. And that level of kind of, you then start making levels of things of like, oh, how much more powerful is this one method of doing this compared to this other method? And this kind of circulates back to one of our first videos back on YouTube of the idea around of defining things, right? And
Mm.
unless there is an objective, you can't really define something, right? Because
Yeah.
it has to be based on something that actually exists, or else it doesn't really make any sense.
Mm.
And and so a lot of people get confused on what the objective statements are,
Mm.
which is where your arguments form, because people start, they aren't agreeing with each other, and often they'll get pretty angsty about it and be like, you're wrong, you're entirely wrong. Anything you say is actually just wrong. And
Mm.
that's how problems aren't solved.
Yeah.
But in a way of saying that they should be open to accepting bad methods, they almost inherently are.
Mm.
If you think about it, they open that idea of being forgiven of almost anything, right?
Mm.
And a lot of the teaching is they literally forgive you for anything, as long as you,
Mm.
you go and seek for it, hey?
Yeah.
And that kind of shows that even though they emphasize one way of teaching things, you could choose to completely discredit and not follow it, but they'll still accept you back for it anyway. It's fine. You know what I
Mm.
mean? So
Yeah.
there is heavy emphasis on one method of doing something, but that doesn't discredit any other method of
Mm.
learning that. So if you think about it, they're not all entirely absolute. And
Mm.
that's the one thing you do have to kind of get around with things is often if something is very absolute, then there's a lot of problems with that, you could say.
Mm. Yeah.
There's a lot of things that won't make too much sense if a lot of things are absolute.
Mm.
Yeah, that's kind of
Mm.
the gist of that.
Cool.
Yeah.
Anything to talk about?
Um, I don't know. I haven't really thought of any odd things recently.
Ah.
Yeah,
No
but
worries.
yeah, because a lot of that sort of stuff then stems to people understanding things, right?
Mm.
I've seen people get convinced so easily because they were brought up in one method of thinking, and you know, I know a lot of people will say it's inefficient to be thinking of too many things because if you don't have focus, then you're not going to get anywhere. You know,
Mm.
um, let's say you have a map, you're trying to build up the map of something, and if you don't have focus, you're going to have like a really like large, a broad area, but it's going to be really small because you haven't made proper progress in any of those areas, right? You've
Mm.
only kind of touched on different things, but see, the issue is, how so many people nowadays, they kind of blindly believe in things
Mm.
and they don't actually question sometimes what they believe in. Right?
Yeah.
And let's say if you were brought up to be in one political mindset,
Mm.
then a lot of people fight very, very aggressively to hold that standpoint, even
Mm.
though they may not fully understand their position on that topic.
Mm.
So let's say you're a person who, let's say you get brought up that donuts are bad and they're evil,
Mm.
right? And let's say all your life, everyone around you has known donuts are evil and they're horrible.
Mm.
And so if someone then tries to like tell you, oh, you should go try donuts, then you're gonna be like, no, I've been brought up all my life to think they're bad.
Mm.
And obviously you're gonna keep defending your point if they ask, well, why do you think it's bad? You'll be a little bit starstruck, but obviously you'll have a set of known responses
Mm.
because you've already been conditioned so much to believing they're bad. You're like, oh, it's actually like horrible for your health. There's so much sugar and blah blah blah. It doesn't even fill you up that much, and all sorts of other this rubbish, right? And
Mm.
and things like that. Um, it's important not to be so critically short when it comes to your thinking.
Mm.
Like you shouldn't have to be. Like, you shouldn't have to believe in one thing, be forced to believe in something without actually understanding why you believe in it.
Mm,
A lot of people kind of don't. A lot of people get caught up with not understanding why they believe in things,
mm,
and so majority of the time they might, you know, they're often lost, and that's how they get tripped up with a lot of people who do know what they're doing.
mm,
Um, but that's an entire different topic of
mm,
the more powerful individuals, depending on what you mean by power, are often the ones who understand what's going on.
mm.
Like, to think about it, oh, like, let's say we'll take on the idea. You remember this whole toilet paper crisis
Yeah.
that people had when it comes to these things, and
Mm,
some person decided one day, what if we all just run out of toilet paper? And this set off the biggest chain of events with everyone storming stores to buy toilet paper
mm.
because obviously, even though they're not dumb enough to go and hoard stuff just because the internet tells them to, obviously you get into the mindset if they're getting it, then there's not going to be none for me, right?
Yeah.
And in that mindset of, if there's none for me, then how am I going to do things the way I want to do them? You then kind of crack under like the common flow of things.
Mm,
And so you're almost at the mercy of what other people are doing, right?
mm,
Because you made that action because of what they do, which is kind of counterintuitive if you thought about it really, really rigorously.
mm,
Because when you think about it, if you knew exactly why they were doing that, and then you could formulate your own idea of what might happen in the near future, then you can make an able decision on whether or not of what you should do, whether or not you should start hoarding it now, or you should just kind of watch them and let them run around like headless chickens, you know?
mm. Yeah.
And obviously, if you do things because of something you don't understand, then you're giving a lot of control away to you know, whatever you broke under to.
Mm,
And so a lot of the control you have or you had, it's kind of just gone out the window because you decided to follow whatever dude on the internet said, right?
mm,
And personally, that's how you like. There's kind of a an odd way of living. Personally,
mm.
is not knowing everything that's happening and just taking for whatever happens to be whatever happens.
Yeah.
And I think it's just kind of funny. You'll find a lot of people actually do that. Um, a lot of them aren't actually aware of what's going on. They just do things because that's how it is.
Mm,
But yeah,
mm. Cool.
hmm that's pretty much it. Bloody hell, though, it is a bit of a funny topic.
Mm,
You
definitely.
get around and you're like, you know, um, so one person decides, I'm gonna buy all this toilet paper, and then everyone's like, what? Why, man?
Mm,
Well, because the internet told me so. And you're like, well, if everyone started saying that you're gonna run out of hot dogs, you really think that everyone's gonna storm the stores for hot dogs?
yeah.
It is kind of stupid,
Mm,
but that's how it be.
mm. Because like okay, like you
Mm,
think like the people that, for example, like, the whole toilet paper situation, things like that.
mm-hmm.
Like when it came down to quote unquote like business, but like when it came down to that, you have like you have your demand and you have your trade, right? So you have
Yeah.
like you can't have any stock without any demands.
Mm.
So in that cases, the people that buy tons of toilet paper, do you think they can sell off do you think they gain any profit from it or no?
Who all the people who manufacture toilet paper?
No, 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 no. The people that bought the toilet paper then plan to resell it. Do you
God.
think they got any money from it
So you're gonna have
or
some
no?
businessmen now who are making use of the current activity
Mm,
and situation. Look, to be honest, I don't even know if anyone's like that during this
Mm.
time, but I'm
Yeah.
certain there's someone who's tried that. I'm certain.
Mm.
And in all honesty, uh, if they really wanted that to happen, they probably would be selling it for like bloody $25 a packet or something stupid like that,
Mm.
which is pretty entertaining. Let's be real. Imagine
Mm.
getting pranked and you bought toilet paper for like $25
Mm.
when you really didn't have to.
Yeah. Because I feel like, you know, like the people that took advantage from this time, right? Which is like, it's not funny to say the least, because every single thing is at the pandemic at the moment, and then you do like, and then that's you just buying toilet papers and then reselling it to make your profits worse, right? It's
Yeah.
it's sad, but at the same time it's hilarious to think about, like, people would go through this type of stuff to just get like a bunch of bucks back, I guess, like just to get money. Like people would you know go out of the efforts and do something like this, to a point that, like, they try to get some, like, money off, or just like, some things from this type of things. And I found it like we like funny, but at the same time, like, it's so sad to the point that, like, why do people do this type of things, if you know what I mean?
Mm.
It's like there's a pandemic at the moment, and the only thing you could think about is selling like reselling toilet papers, pretty much. And
Hey,
it's
some
just
people just want money. Let's be real.
I don't
Bloody
know, man.
hell.
I think you must sell more, dude. Yes. So, like, I don't know. I found it like very interesting, to say the least, right? And then, but at the same time, like what kind of thing that goes through the person's mind, saying that, like, I want to buy toilet paper and resell the toilet paper. You know what I mean?
Mm.
It's like I can't grab the like my head around it. I don't know why would people do, like, obviously it's for money, but at the same time, like, why? You know what I mean? So weird.
Who freaking knows? Some people are just just like that.
Mm.
And all they think about is money. Like it's I wouldn't say it's like kind of cheeky. Some people might say it's smart, but it's also like, it's kind of abusing
Mm.
people who don't understand what's going on and are just chilling.
Mm.
It's like half the time it's like, I guess you could say it might not be the morally best thing. But
Mm.
hey, some people might just appreciate making money out of quarantine.
Mm.
So, least to say, if they are effective at it, well done. But
Mm.
amidst the pandemic, I would have thought everyone would be a little bit more coming together than so divided.
Mm. Exactly.
Um,
Yeah.
no, but okay, here's a really, really interesting idea to think about. You,
Mm.
you know how like a lot of people are what do you call this? There's like so many people out there nowadays that are like um you know they're like before the pandemic everyone's like, oh, we're all together and strong as people, right?
Mm.
At the moment something changes, everyone just scrams and goes back to that do it for yourself type mindset.
Mm.
And like to think about it, I think it's pretty funny how like we as a collective could have done so much better if people didn't just start panicking 24/7.
Mm.
Like if they sat down and genuinely tried to work out a solution rather than screaming to save themselves, a lot more people would be um, in better positions nowadays.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
True. Mm.
Like I don't understand. Like I get that you're trying to, self-sustain, and that's like a
Mm.
human trait almost that you want to
Mm.
look out for yourself and your family and people alike.
Mm.
But I just think it is quite hilarious that um, often people are just always just going to break under any change that's so massive that they can't seem to cooperate together.
Mm.
you kind of just sit there and wonder, huh, that's always
it
fun.
it it really brings you back to perspective where you have like some people it's like I can do it like it brings down to idea where like like to be honest like right like your mindset of like everyone can work together and things like that it does not gonna happen like it's legit not
No.
gonna happen it's 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 so like bizarre because some people would think that like some sort of like this type of pandemic like people say we can work with each other like we have we have the concept we have the power and things like that and then it's like then when it came down to the
That's a
pandemic
lie.
you just look at us you just like like really
Oh, really now?
yeah it just goes so quickly to the point that like you're just looking I was like but weren't you saying that people can work together and things like that? It just doesn't, doesn't work. It's just so bizarre,
I
and
know.
just like it's so weird. And I'm just sitting there like, I don't know.
Korean
My
people,
sources
I
tell me
swear.
otherwise.
Yeah.
Hmm. It's like I don't know. Like this is like really sad because like
Mm,
like I heard like something in Melbourne where like bunch of Aussies going up to like one Malaysian chick and one Singaporean chick, and
mm.
then they start beating them up because they think they're Chinese. Oh, like
Bruh.
they think they came from Wuhan, and then they try to stop quote unquote like they start shift blaming to other people, and from there on they're just like they try to stop the spread. And I was just looking, I was like, wait a minute, you try to stop the spread, but at the same time you're touching them. And I'm just like, wait a minute, that doesn't make sense at all. I was like, you're trying to stop the spread, but at the same time, like you're physically touching them. Like that means you don't even know if they have the virus or not. You're still touching them for no goddamn reason. You know what I mean? And I'm
Yeah,
just
I
like,
know.
I was like, what? It's like, but isn't your whole point is to not touch them? And it's like, and then it's like, it's okay. Saying that, like, you know, like people shift blaming is understandable because it's in a pandemic, right? Like,
Yes.
I get like if people feel stressed out and things like that, but at the same time, like the whole thing has already gone like gone through, right? Like
Uh-huh.
what can you legit do, right? Like you like for example, like I I can't blame anyone, right? Like if
Mm-hmm.
these things happen, this type of things happen, I can't go up to like a Chinese man. It's like this is all your fault, and then it's like I can't do that
Bit,
because
bit of racism here and there, but
exactly like it's it's like how did I know they're the one who did it? How do I know that they make this virus happen? It's like how am I supposed to know this? And I just go up to like a Chinaman and like, hey bro, this is all your fault, and and start beating them. I was like, what the hell, man? And I was like,
okay.
are you serious?
To be fair though, so we're like genetically predetermined to look out for ourselves, and
Mm,
so any possible threats, obviously by judging by appearance, which is the first thing we always do. Um,
yeah,
even though people say, "Oh, don't judge a book by its cover,"
ice cover, yeah, yeah,
well, I mean, if you in survival terms, incorrect. That's exactly what
yeah,
you do
exactly,
in life and death situations, and a lot of the time, that's exactly what nature does. You're
mm,
supposed to judge a lot of things by first appearance,
mm,
to make sure you don't get bamboozled,
exactly,
you may say. And so,
mm,
an extremity of that is just when it's like these situations, and then people start running around like abusing other people because they think it's correct.
yeah,
And so it is kind of funny that a lot of people think, ah, you know, maybe because they look dangerous, that I should do something about it.
yeah,
And that's like a common misconception. Like, well, no, it's not how you should be thinking about it.
mm,
Obviously, if you see someone out in public with some weapon that could harm you, you might stay away from them.
yeah,
But just because you see someone and you're like, ah, coronavirus, all your fault, doesn't give you the almost any reason as to why you should be abusing them.
exactly.
So it is kind of dumb, but
Hmm.
that's how it be, you know. That's how it be. I
And
don't know
then
much else.
it's so weird because like like I heard like I heard from my coworkers saying that like, my boss that when he came to Australia, like like people would go like group around like my boss and then ask him, "Are you Chinese?" Right? And then if you're Chinese, they'll beat you up, right? And then like at the same
Well,
time
okay.
like at the same time like in my mind I was like how do they know I'm not Chinese? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like they say they can say, "Are you Chinese?" And I was like, "No, bro, I live in Australia, dude. What do you want?" And it's like, "Okay, you can go." Like how am I like how like legit how are they supposed to know? Like I'm Chinese, like or I can speak really well English. You know what I mean? It's like it's like where do you cross the line? It's like it's so weird. It's like, "Are you Chinese?" I was like, "No, man, I'm Australian, dude." I was like, what are you gonna do?" And then it's like, "Okay, you can go." And it's like, it's just, but it's so bizarre. I was like, why? It's like, it's so weird. And I was just like, what the hell?
It's pretty
So
retarded. God
yeah, I
damn.
know.
God damn it.
And then I found it like hilarious where some people would like would get offended by like a like for example like a drunk dude. Like if a drunk dude call you out, right? Like
Uh,
there's not much you can be mad about, right? Like you just like, "Oh, whatever, he's drunk, right? He
mm,
doesn't have the capacity to argue and things like that. Just let it go." But some people would get so offended to the point that they would just like like go on like a brawl with like a guy, and I'm just looking at it, just like what? It doesn't make sense. It's like why? Out of all the things they can do, like in like saying like like I get it, like if someone like say a bunch of like horrendous things to you, right? Like it's not as easy as you can let go, right? Like there is
mm-hmm.
some sort of impact, but at the same time if you look at a person that is drunk, like there's no point of like beating someone up, I guess. Like there's no point of like saying like, "Oh, this what the hell, man." Like that's not true and things like that. I was like, that's not really a point of like beating him like drunk guy, I guess. Like 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 I you can just let it go pretty much. And I'm just looking at like what? It's just like sometimes it just doesn't. Sometimes I'm just like so bizarre. I was like, why? Why are you putting something like this? It's like just let it go. It's
I
easy.
feel like a lot of bloody people think, oh, just because what I think's correct, I am correct. And I'm just
Exactly.
kind of like, well, let me stop you right there, homie. Maybe
Yeah.
not. Um, it's still kind of funny. It's kind of weird that a lot of people think that, and you're like, well, I would
Not
have,
really.
but it's so normal. That's the thing.
Hmm.
Like, it's so much more normal than you think. Bloody people actually do this on a daily,
Yeah.
and it seems normal, and you're like, well, okay then. Sure thing, buddy. Sure thing.
Hmm. Yes.
It's pretty dopey.
Just like whenever I saw these type of things, like I don't know, it's like come down to this, like for like my in my mind, right? I couldn't get the grab the concept of this type of things actually happen. You know what I mean?
Mm,
It's like as for me, like kind of thing is straightforward, but it's pretty much like normal common sense, isn't it? Like where like like you don't have to beat someone up for it. You just like just whatever, right?
mm-hmm.
But it's some people it's like they can't think like grab it. I was like I don't know, man. It's like like look at him. He's drunk. What can you do? It's like this is legit tip like like tipping himself over, and then like you want to go against him. It's like it's like I don't get it.
Oh man, I don't even know. It's like a preset mindset people have.
I
Bloody,
just
oh yeah, because you look like this, I have the right to do this. I'm like, well, no.
yeah.
It's like,
But yeah.
okay, okay, bro,
Mm. Mm.
he's retarded. To be honest with you, he is genuinely retarded.
Mm.
Yup. But yeah, bit of a lull here and there.
Mm.
Oh, it's like almost 6. Oh well, that's okay. Okay. I don't know, man. I think this might be like one of our shorter streams. Far
Mm.
out.
Pretty quick.
I know. It's only been an hour though, so it's fair enough.
Mm.
But yeah, I've run out of things to say. And we don't have currently any new chats. That's okay.
Mm.
That's alright.
Wanna end it now here?
Until next time. Thanks for everyone who popped on the stream. Couldn't really see. Maybe there was one,
Mm.
maybe there was two. Who knows?
Yeah,
But
that's a few.
I hope you guys have a fine Saturday evening. Oh, not Saturday.
Mm.
Damn it, it's Sunday. Sunday evening if you're in Australia, and
Mm.
a Sunday morning if you're around Britain. I think. That's the thing.
Mm.
All right. Thank you, everyone, and
Thank you
have
for
a nice
listening.
evening.